All right, can you hear me? All right, so hopefully the microphone is now working. Um, but what I'm hoping for is that this is less more of didactics, although there's some structural components and mechanical components of what's involved in a research question versus why is that different from a hypothesis statement. And from the perspective of medical education, you'll see some examples in here for medical education, as many of us are involved in medical education research and working in groups and maybe mentoring groups of researchers or inspiring researchers about medical education, but I'll also align it with what you might see in clinical research or medical research. What you'll see here, as soon as I can get this PowerPoint moving. Here's some session learning objectives. As you'll notice, I'm not going to read them all verbatim, but you'll see that we'll be distinguishing between research questions versus a research hypothesis. We'll look at the characteristics of research questions. We'll use the PICOT or PCOT, depending on where you've learned or heard about this term. The PICOT model for creating a research question, we'll focus on that a lot because I think it nicely compartmentalizes the elements of a research question. We'll look at clinical versus educational research questions and why they're different, but also why they're similar. And then we'll practice some exercises. And since most of you are online or at home or in a remote environment, you can practice these on your own. And I fully encourage you, play these activities out, even write them down on a scratch piece of paper or look at these slides. You'll find that it's good practice because some of the elements that we'll be talking about in a research question, we often skip this part because we think as human beings that we're asking questions already, or we have an intuitive knowledge of the question that we want to ask. But we need to write these down and we need to break them down so we're actually very clear of the question that we're asking so that we know which direction that we'll go in. Whether that direction is in terms of picking a set of data to help us answer a particular question, or even picking the methodologies that we have to employ to get to the data to help us answer those questions. But we'll review these definitions and these concepts relative to a research question for both medical education research, but also clinical and medical research. I'm giving you a definition of a research question, and I want you to focus in on this, and I put it in larger text simply so that it'll stick out more, and I'm going to use this laser pointer, that it is a clear and focused, concise question. Using the laser pointer, follow the bouncing ball. It is a clear and concise question. It's not vague, it's not robust, it's not comprehensive, but it's very specific, it is clear, and it is focused. It should serve as a guide to develop your research design and your protocol, and definitely help you decide what type of data you should be collecting to help you answer your particular question. Now, I want to note here, I gave you some examples in medical education. You'll notice that in these examples, they're not vague. There's highly specific elements in each of these examples, and I'll just read them out to you. How does simulation-based training impact clinical skills of medical students? This question focuses on evaluating effectiveness of a specific training method. The next one, what are the effects of integrated care models on patient outcomes in primary healthcare settings? The effects of integrated care models on patient outcomes in primary healthcare settings. This question aims to assess the impact of care models on patient health outcomes. A last quick example, how does a flipped classroom approach affect the learning outcomes of medical students in anatomy courses? Highly specific mode of teaching, flipped classroom, identifying learning outcomes for medical students, specifically in anatomy classes. So you can get the idea in medical education, we're identifying very specific components of a research question that should direct us in particular routes of finding information to help us answer those questions. 3 elements here. 1, the research question should direct your research. It is not a vague statement. It adds a pathway for you to focus your study, ensuring that all efforts are aligned towards addressing a specific issue at hand. Number 2, helps identifying a methodology. It provides a basis for selecting the appropriate research methods and the tools to ensure that you are answering your question. And lastly, it guides data collection. By being specific and identifying outcomes, you're able to identify which data you should be collecting to help you answer that question. The research question determines what data needs to be collected and how it should be analyzed for some meaningful results and meaningful conclusions. Now, just to quickly go over the pathway to the steps of developing a research question, we start broad. We want to identify a broad topic. And oftentimes, especially when I'm working with students or other research teams, this is the hardest part because we start with a large body of information, a large body of literature. We are trying to focus in on a very small piece of that literature. And oftentimes, you have to go through many different types of readings, investigations to kind of hone in what you're interested in. So defining a broad topic. You start with a general idea, narrow it down by using literature review, background, and significance, and you identify the area that you're specifically interested in. Then you read further about that specific area. What are the gaps? What are the holes? What do we not know? Review what is already known to identify your topic more specifically and any gaps or areas that need more investigation. Then we want to focus based on that preliminary research, narrow down your topic into a specific item or set of items that you find interesting that represents the gap you're willing to exert a lot of work for filling that gap. And lastly, is this feasible? There are tons of holes in the literature. There are tons of gaps that we have energy and enthusiasm for, but it might not be feasible depending on the timeline that you want to do this research. Might be requiring you 6 years, not 6 months, to find all the information and to gather the data, analyze it, to answer your question. For our students, they don't have 6 years to answer those questions. They may have 6 months. So consider the feasibility. Is your research question able to be answered in a 3-month timeline, a 6-month timeline, a 9-month or 12-month, or maybe a 24-month, depending on how long and how much resources you have, both personnel-wise, funding-wise, as well as time-wise. So consider the feasibility. Let's play a game. And I want you to take an honest effort here. Put your thoughts on the chats. Examples of topic narrowing. Which is narrow or broad? I want you to use the word narrow or broad in the chat. So for the first one, I want you to identify, is this a broad topic or a narrow topic? Broad topic or a narrow topic? Is it too broad? Do we need to flesh it out some more? Or is it too narrow? Like we're already there, it's specific enough. The impact of educational technologies on learning. The impact of educational technologies on learning. Dr. Lopez Vera, she says, number 1, broad. She's the first brave soul. Impact of educational technologies on learning. Any other takers? I see a thumbs high here on the comment. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilhelm. Number 2, we'll give you the answers after we get through the rest of these examples. Simulation-based training in education. Simulation-based training in education. Let's take a stab at that one. Number 2, is that a narrow topic or a broad topic? Number 3, go ahead and put in the chat, number 2, whether you think it's narrow or broad. Number 3, the effect of virtual reality-based training on the anatomy identification skills of second-year medical students. That was a mouthful. The effect of virtual reality-based training on the anatomy identification skills of second-year medical students. Dr. Lopez Vera, she's on a roll here. Number 1, broad. Number 2, broad. Number 3, narrow. Number 4, last one, senior community participant perceptions of medical student-run health fairs in the Inland Empire. Senior community participant perceptions of medical student-run health fairs in the Inland Empire. Number 4, let me know if that is narrow or broad. Take a couple seconds. Which of these topics appear to be more feasible to investigate further? I love that Dr. Lopez Vera notes. Now I think 3 is broad. And number 4 notes as narrow. Excellent. So for the first one, let's go ahead and take a look at this, do a little rundown. It is a broad topic because the impact of educational technologies on learning, although we know that we're looking at educational technologies, some kind of technology platform, we're looking at learning. Well, there's many different technologies. Are we talking about classroom technology like projection, audiovisual aids, or are we talking about artificial intelligence? A little bit broad there. If we can branch this out and flesh this educational technologies topic out a little bit further. Learning, what type of learning? Visual learning, audio learning, tactile learning, active listening. There's a lot of different elements of learning that we can talk about that also can be investigated through the literature. Simulation-based training and education. I think we're seeing a trend here. Simulation-based training is a topic, but what type of simulation-based training? Is it use of mannequins? Is it use of individuals like standardized patients that we often use in our own clinical skills training? And what type of education? Are we talking about adult education, adult learners, juvenile or younger learners? This is also a very broad topic. I think Dr. Lopez Vera, you're on a roll here. The effect of virtual reality-based training on the anatomy identification skills of second-year medical students. End of statement. Incredible. This topic, there's a lot more specific items here. Effect of virtual reality-based training. We're talking about VR as a form of educational technology and educational training. Anatomy identification skills. We're looking at a subject matter of anatomy. And who are we involving in this? Second-year medical students. Very specific group of student. The narrow topic. Senior community participant perceptions of medical student-run health fairs in the Inland Empire. We know our population, it's senior community participants. Where are they? They're in the Inland Empire, specific geographic location. And what are we looking for? Their perceptions about medical student-run health fairs. Highly specific, very narrow. These first 2 items, we know that they're broad simply because there are many different avenues we can explore on each of these topic areas. Number 3 and number 4 here, there's very specific populations, locations, outcomes, as well as comparators that we can examine. It's a more narrow and more specified set of concepts and topics within these 2 statements. Which of these topics appear more feasible to investigate further? Well, I would argue there might be these 2 narrow ones because it gives us much more direction of where we want to start our investigations. Rather than the first 2, I think we're going to have to do a little bit more reading, a little bit more investigation about what is our niche, what do we really want to specifically investigate further. I love this graphic because sometimes we think we have an idea about what we want to investigate, but it's too blurry. We need to clarify it a bit more. Just to give you some ideas about clarity of and the characteristics of a research question, you'll notice some keywords here in this diagram. A research question is clear. It is focused in its approach and addressing a particular aspect of your topic or area that you're interested in. And it's relevant. It doesn't go off on tangents. And it's not too robust where mostly every topic is relevant that you run into. It's relevant to a specific topic. But it's also complex. It tackles those areas and those gaps, not because they're easy, but because they're complex and they require a lot of investigation to identify those gaps and what it's going to take to help answer those questions. Clarity, focus, complexity, and relevance. All right, the next comparison here, just quickly. One of the main differences between a research question and a hypothesis is a research question is a question. It ends with a question mark. You're asking about a specific topic with specific characteristics. A hypothesis is a statement. It ends with a period. It is not a question. And what makes a hypothesis special is that it predicts an expected outcome. You make a statement of whether you think something is going to happen or not happen. You're making a claim. In a research question, you're simply asking a question, a highly specific question, but a question nonetheless. I've given you some characteristics here. You can spend some time looking at these notes. I'll post the notes into the chat as soon as we're done with some of the explanation components of our talk today. But here's some characteristics of a research question. Always posed as a question. There is a timing element. You're given a timing element for a research question. You must do this first. Discover what your question is first before you even consider what type of data set that you have access to. Because our habit is we have data and we develop the question later. Why? Is because we have the data first. But from a research perspective, a worthy research project that is focused, that is centered on producing very substantial results, we develop the research question first. We don't collect the data first, we develop the question first. Testability, we want to broadly explore a topic by looking at a lot of literature, reviewing literature to get to our specific nature of the gaps that we're trying to fill. And I'm giving you some examples here of our research question. Does exercise reduce blood pressure? Does VR technology in anatomy education improve visual identification of organs? Very different from a hypothesis statement. It is simply a statement that predicts an outcome. It's a claim. The counterpart to our research question is regular exercise will significantly reduce systolic blood pressure in hypertensive adults. For VR technology, our hypothesis might be VR technology will improve health professions, students' identification scores on lab practical examinations. These two statements are statements, they are not questions, and we're claiming a direction of where we would predict our outcome to be. Here's our first examination of a PICOT model. I'm not going to define all of these because I think that I'm giving you those definitions here. Population, intervention, comparison, outcome, and timeline. In a research question, it must have all five at the very least. Patient population. Who are you trying to sample? Who are you concerned with? Who are the participants? Who are the patients? Intervention. Is this a treatment, or is it an intervention or a skill you're trying to impart? What is the thing that's going to help you determine what changes have occurred? It could be a drug, or it could be an educational strategy or technology that you're trying to test. And what are you comparing it to? Is there a standard of care or a standard practice? What's the outcome? What are you trying to measure the change in? Is it blood pressure? If it's a medication? Or is it knowledge? Or is it a knowledge or skill you're trying to score and grade? And when will this happen? Will it take 3 months? Will it take 6 months? A semester? A 10-week quarter? Every one of these elements appears in a research question. To give you an example of each of these elements, answer these questions for your PICOT. Who's involved in the study? Who's involved in your research? Who is being studied, or what is being studied? Is it an intervention, a drug, a procedure? Comparison. Is there a standard of care, or is there a placebo that you're comparing the intervention to or the medication to? Outcome. What's your primary endpoint of interest? What's the ultimate measurable outcome? Is it a score? Is it an attainment of a skill? And what point in time? Is it done in the past, a retrospective study design? Is it in the present, a cross-sectional study design? Or future, a prospective study design? Just by knowing timeline, you can identify the type of study methodology, experimental methodology you might need. Retrospective, cross-sectional, or prospective study design. I want to spend some time on this one. You tell me in the chat. Let's identify the PICOT in this research question. In third-year medical students, does simulation-based training compared to traditional lecture-based training improve clinical reasoning skills as measured by standardized patient encounter scores over one academic semester? Third-year medical students, does simulation-based training compared to traditional lecture-based teaching improve clinical reasoning skills as measured by standardized patient encounter scores over a one academic semester? What is our P? You tell me. I heard it in the audience. What is our P? Very good, Dr. Sheikh. I won't put it in the chat. New messages below in the chat. Let's see what we got. There you go. Dr. Wilhelm, third year. Yes. Bradley, all right. Third year med students. Dr. Lopez Vera, third year medical students. Yes, our population is third year medical students. What's next? Intervention. What is our intervention? Or treatment. In our medical education example, we're looking for something dealing with some kind of teaching model or something dealing with a learning model. Yes, Bradley, simulation versus traditional. We're getting close. Intervention, simulation-based training, very good. And it's versus, compared to, for comparison, Bradley hit it right off the bat, traditional lecture-based training. So our comparator is lecture-based training, and our intervention is simulation-based training. Next up, outcome. What is our outcome here? What is the thing we're trying to measure? Very good, Dr. Sheikh. Improved clinical reasoning skills. Improved in clinical reasoning skills. Very good, Bradley. And timeline? How long will this take? 1 semester. Very good, Dr. Sheikh in the audience. P, third year medical students. I, simulation-based training. C, traditional lecture-based teaching. O, clinical reasoning skills, SP encounter scores to be more specific. And T for timeline, 1 academic semester. Very good. I'm going to hit you one more time. Clinical example. We did a medical education research example. Let's do a clinical example. In patients with type 2 diabetes, does metformin therapy compared to lifestyle modification alone result in better glycemic control as measured by HbA1c levels over 6 months? Does metformin in type 2 diabetes patients, does metformin therapy compared to lifestyle modification alone result in better glycemic control as measured by HbA1c levels over 6 months? All right, virtual audience, population, who are we working with here? Scroll down. Very good, Bradley. T2D, type 2 diabetic patients. Very good. Intervention? Dylan, what do we have? Type 2 diabetic patients, yes, for population. What about intervention? Follow the bouncing ball. Very good, Dylan. Metformin therapy. Oral therapy, metformin therapy. Yes, that's the intervention. What are we comparing it to? Very good, Michael. Very good, Dr. Sheik. Bradley, excellent, excellent. Lifestyle modification. So it's drug versus lifestyle. That's the comparison. Excellent. What's the outcome? What are we trying to measure here? Glycemic control. Specifically, the outcome that's measured is? Yes, very good, Bradley. HbA1c levels. And our timeline? Very good, Dr. Sheik in the audience. Very nice, Bradley. Our timeline, 6 months. As you can see from these examples, they apply both to medical education research as well as clinical research as well, but the elements are still consistent: population, intervention, comparison, outcome, timeline. All of these elements exist in the PICOT model for both types of research that we're reviewing here. I give you a slide on components of research hypotheses. Again, it is only a statement that makes a claim. This is not, as you can see from the practice that we've gotten in the previous 2 slides, this is not about formulating a question, about formulating a statement with some claims. I want to put some vocabulary out there. The variables, we often refer to predictors as independent variables. We often refer to outcome variables as dependent variables. Remember that your independent variables, those are the elements that will change, that somehow are associated with the outcome. And our outcome is the dependent variable. There can be populations that are identified in hypotheses as well as a relationship, but you're predicting the relationship. You're giving directionality here. Direction and nature of an expected relationship. Does something increase? Does it decrease? Does it get better or does it get worse? You're making that claim. You'll decide if it's testable and if there's enough specificity. Is it clear, precise? Is it unambiguous? Is it too vague? So I give you this slide to help you decipher some of the characteristics of what is involved in writing a research hypothesis. I'm going to give you some examples here that talks about independent variables, dependent variables, population, predicted relationship, and time frame for a research hypothesis. Notice this is a typographical error. This should be a quotation mark, not a question mark. In third year medical students, simulation-based training compared to traditional lecture-based training or lecture-based teaching will increase standardized patient encounter scores over one academic semester. We know that this should be a research hypothesis because this is not a question, this is a statement. It will increase standardized patient encounter scores. So I've identified an independent variable, a dependent variable, population, predicted relationship, and there is a time frame noted here. We can also do the same thing for clinical research hypotheses. Patients with type 2 diabetes who receive metformin therapy in addition to lifestyle modification will demonstrate significantly lower HbA1c levels compared to patients receiving lifestyle modification alone after 6 months of treatment. Key here is will demonstrate significantly lower HbA1c levels. And if you look at both of these statements, you'll find that these are the types of hypotheses that are mentioned in publications. Because in publications, we identify a directionality of where our claim is going. It will lower, it will decrease, it will not change. We're predicting that in our publications. Okay. Fantastic. Now, some common pitfalls in formulating research questions, and I think we've talked about these earlier in some of these slides. These three are probably the biggest. Common pitfalls, it's too broad and too narrow. You didn't do too much reading in your literature review. So I ask, as you're going through the literature and are identifying gaps, do an extensive review. Narrow down those broad topics into a very specific niche or gap that you're going to be interested in. And you're not clear. You don't identify your population. You don't identify the intervention, the comparator, the outcome, or even the timeline. It's not clear. And when you have something that's not clear, it's very difficult to answer that research question. Or it's not feasible. Maybe the research question is a brilliant question, but it'll take years. It'll take years to conduct those experiments or those study designs, those methodologies. It might not be feasible in a short period of time. Does it require resources that are difficult to obtain? Time being one of them, money being another, personnel being another, etc. Refining your research question, I just offer this for the students, especially our researchers that are working on projects, is refining your research question, these three elements, using feedback. Talk to people, talk to your colleagues, talk to experts in the field, make connections, do some networking, but get feedback from a variety of sources. The more feedback that you get from trusted resources, trusted personnel, it will help you narrow and make your research question more specific. Make it an iterative process. This does not happen overnight. You need to look at literature. You need to identify gaps. And once you identify gaps, do some more reading to make sure they're the right gaps that you should be investigating. Ensuring clarity of focus, you will go through revisions. Usually your first research question draft is not the best one because there's still more refinement. There's still more investigation you need to conduct to help refine it further or to make it more specific. There will be more than one draft, and that's normal. Okay, I have yet to run into a research group where the first research question that you've written down is the perfect one for your project, and it typically is not. You'll go through several drafts. Practice activity. I want you to, for those of you that are in the virtual world and those of you that are in the classroom, What I'd like you to do is take a look at these two items. Formulate your own research question. You can do this on an electronic document. Just get a blank Microsoft Word document on your screen. And I want you to develop your own research question on a topic that you're interested in. The topic doesn't even have to be about medical education or clinical or medical research. It could be about anything you're interested in. You just want to practice writing a research question. So pick a topic you're interested in. And if you're available in the classroom, I want you to think, pair, share with a partner that's sitting close to you. Collaborate with a partner to construct a research question on a topic of your choice. You can use the PICOT, the PICOT model, to help you decipher and put together your research question, but I'd like you to give it a shot. You may use PICOT or general steps of constructing a research question. Now, PICOT is the one I like to use because I remember what the PICOT stand for, and it really does help me remember, did I touch all the essential bases? But there's other ones out there. I say use the one that gives you the most yield for your efforts. You can use PICOT. I love that one. You do have notes based on this slide set. And then group discussion and feedback. If you're in the classroom, talk to each other. Does this research question draft, does this make sense? Am I missing something? Or did I put too much in? That's the other thing. We sometimes are too inclusive. We don't need so much information in our research question. We might have enough. Take a couple minutes to do that. And if you can, for those of you in the working virtual world, go ahead and put your statement or your research question into the chat of a topic of your choice. We'll go ahead and take a look at those in chat. Let's take a couple minutes to do this. And for those of you, especially our students that just survived their M1 or M2 clinical skills day, it was a long day today, but I appreciate you taking a stab at this activity. Few more seconds on this, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at some examples. If you can, go ahead and copy and paste your statement. If you typed it out on a blank MS Word document, go ahead and type and paste it onto the chat. Our brave participants here. Thank you so much, Dr. Lopez Vera. Excellent topic, Dr. Lopez Vera. Dr. Lopez Vera writes, how does housing insecurity affect the prevalence of anxiety and depression among Spanish-speaking adults seeking care at a community health clinic in the Inland Empire? At community health clinics in the Inland Empire. Fantastic, fantastic research question here. What is our P? Our population? Spanish-speaking adults? What is our I? Our I is I'll wait for the audience to chime in on this. Housing is how does housing insecurity affect the prevalence of anxiety and depression among Spanish-speaking adults seeking care at community health clinics in the Inland Empire? I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to create a slide here. We'll just do this really quickly. What is our population? Population, Spanish-speaking adults. What is our I? Our intervention? Housing insecurity. What is our comparator? Housing insecurity. Well, the comparator is if you have housing or no housing. If you have housing or no housing. And we're looking at adults seeking care at community health clinics. Our outcome, there's two here, which is very interesting, anxiety and depression. We can score anxiety as well as we can score depression. And what is our timeline? That's the only additive element here. I think we need to be a little bit more specific on timeline. I'm going to write that into the chat. Insecurity, comparator versus no housing, outcome, anxiety, depression, and timing. And Dr. Lopez Vera, there is no timeline. I think specifically, and research questions, by the way, particularly if you don't have a timeline, some of these items that you're researching may not have a timeline. Maybe it's cross-sectional. You want to record data at a single point of time. That's also possible as well. Excellent work. Anyone from the audience want to take a stab? I can post that up here and we can Dr. Sheikh and her ThinkPairShare partner are working on it. But with the sake of time, we're only over by a minute. I don't want to belabor your timeline, especially for our students. I know they've had a long day as well. But you should have enough. Content here to help you narrow and refine your practice in developing a research question. There's another a slide here dealing with the workshop activity. It's not just for workshopping, but this is something that you should be able to do when you're designing and developing your research questions. What we just did in these slides, especially this practice activity here, this is something that you should be doing at the very beginning of any research project that you're willing to commit some time and effort into. You should not collect data first. Even if the data is free, someone hands you a digital copy or a folder of data, that's fine, perfect. Put that in your back pocket, come up with your research question first, because you might find out that data has nothing to do with what you're interested in. You might waste days to weeks to months before you figure that out because you didn't start writing your research question first. By writing your research question first, going through those literature reviews, identifying those gaps, getting feedback from folks after the many drafts of a research question, you'll define a very specific question that will direct the rest of your research project. If there's any questions, please let me know. Yes, please.
It's end of the day, so I'm a bit tired. So I don't know what it is, Alvin. There was a residency training program that's 5 years old, and we wanted to do an evaluation of that. And we did a survey of the residents, and then we did interviews. So it's mixed methods. It's quantitative and qualitative. So I've just put here, and I'm interested in your feedback, mixed method evaluation, quality assurance of a 5-year training program of junior residents. And it doesn't make quite sense to me. I think it's the end of the day. So
no, very good. It's a very good question. And there's many different ways to go about putting the components of PICOT as an example together. What I'd recommend you do is write down those elements. What is your PICOT? And then what I would do then is, okay, what is the gap of these elements that I'm trying to fill? Right? A training program that involves residents. Okay, so it's a training program that involves residents. What's the outcome? What's the intervention? What is that training program about? By identifying those further, it's almost like fitting a piece to the puzzle. And some of those pieces you might find go before other pieces, and some might come after those pieces. But you have all the pieces there. Now it's about arrangement of where the P goes, where the I goes, where the C goes, and where the O and the T go, respectively.
Well, Shaz has been driving the PICO with me, but I'm mentally a bit tired.
No, and
Okay.
I think that that's the exercise that I think is most challenging. It's harder, in my opinion, to figure out what order those pieces go in, and by spending that kind of effort. And I would say splash some water on your face, wipe it with a towel, wash your hands, give yourself some time, and then approach it with a fresh eye. Because putting those pieces together is very challenging because you want to make it sound logically specific. Does that make sense? Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and post the slides in a PDF form onto the chat, and I'm going to end the recording of the workshop here. Thank you very much, everyone, especially to our students and our faculty that have joined us today. I know it's been a long day, but I really appreciate your presence. And we'll have more of these coming up. Next one is going to be August 12th. It'll be on the IRB application process. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.